Hello, and welcome to tonight's show. I am super excited. Tonight is the launch of my brand new show, The Loving Me Show. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me on tonight. I am super excited about what God is doing and this journey that I have been on my whole life. Loving me. What is loving me? Where did this come from? When did this start? The truth is, loving me is a story that God have been weaving together my whole life. You see, I grew up a child, unwanted, rejected, abandoned. My mother and my father didn't show me the love that I thought that they should have. My mother and father never spent time with me. So because they didn't spend time with me, it equated to me that they didn't love me. And this caused me very great pain at a very young age. I should have been out, having fun, enjoying life, but I was so desperate for someone to love me. This caused me to begin to seek love in all the wrong places. I began to seek love from little boys and some men. I began to go on this journey to desperately find someone to love me. So I began to get into relationships. And these relationships never really lasted. I remember there were times where I would be dating a guy and 2 weeks later it would be over. I remember this one time I was dating this guy and I had this girl. She was my enemy. He broke up with me and he went with my enemy. Y'all, I was so broken and so crushed. The enemy set up many scenarios for me to feel unwanted, for me to feel rejected, for me to feel wounded. This happened in my friendships. I had friendships that I would be friends with certain people. And then when new people would come to town or somebody else decided they wanted to be that person's friend, that person would no longer be my friend. I often wondered, why me, Lord? Why don't nobody really care about me? Why don't nobody love me? Although I grew up in a household with my aunts and uncles, I still needed my mother and my father. But the truth is, my parents were broken. They were off doing their own thing. They were off busy nursing their own wounds. And I was left, this young little innocent girl. And when I didn't find that love in men, I kept going. So then I began to give my body away, hoping in exchange that someone would desperately love me. I started having sex at a very young age because after all, that's what they wanted. And in my little head, I thought, if I give them what they want, then they would want me. Then they would keep me. Then that would stay with me. I remember oftentimes getting very clingy and attached to my boyfriend's mother because I felt like maybe if I got in a relationship with their mom, maybe that would keep the relationship. But the truth is, none of that stuff worked. So year after year after year, I got into broken relationships. I was very athletic, very smart, but that still didn't fill the void that I was looking for. I so desperately wanted someone just to love me. I don't remember hearing the words "I love you" a lot growing up. And so I fought because I wanted to be loved. Then this led to older men. I was a teenager dating grown men. Back then, I didn't know it was wrong. I just wanted to be wanted. And they were there. I know now today that I should have never been in relationships like that. But I thank God because he's faithful even when we're not. I remember going to church at a very young age. And I always desired to go after I started going. Along my journey, God did raise up people that showed me kindness, that showed me love. But that still wasn't enough. I desperately needed my father. There were times where I would yearn for him to wrap his arms around me and tell me that he loved me. But he was nowhere to be found, y'all. And so this journey of always wanting love, of always seeking love. It fueled every decision that I made for my life. I was so wounded, so broken. I took on so many different things besides sex to feel wanted, to feel appreciated. I became very competitive. I used to compete with my sister. I experienced rejection when it came to her because many often compared her to me. They would say, Jennifer looks better than Brina because Brina had long hair and was light-skinned, and I had the short nappy hair, and I was a little darker. And that gave me a complex. And I used to say to myself, she may be prettier than me, but I'm smarter than her. And I remember taunting my sister with that to make myself feel better because those around me compared her to me. I took on many different things and I went through a lot. And so God began to shape me. He began to mold me, even though I wasn't where I needed to be. He began to tug at my heart at a very young age. And I remember times where my sister and them and my cousins and them would be going out dancing. And I'd be like, well, I'm not doing that. But guess what? I was having some sex, y'all. Because people couldn't see that. I had an image to portray. But eventually, God began to get a hold of my heart. I had a baby when I was 19 years old. And this baby was by a married man. My lifestyle of wanting to be loved and wanting to be wanted led me into the arms of a married man. The truth is, married men used to chase me when I was a little girl. And I remember telling them, I'm not going to mess with you. God ain't going to get me. You must not love your wife. Why are you trying to sleep with somebody else? But it was later, because I had already opened Pandora's box, as they say, by engaging in sex, that it went to the next level. And eventually I did end up sleeping with married men. But I thank God that he freed me from that. So here it is. I'm off in boot camp. And I began to feel something in my stomach. I said, either I'm sick or I'm pregnant. The truth is, in boot camp, because we were under a lot of stress and doing a lot of exercises, a lot of girls didn't get their cycle. And I didn't get mine either. But shortly after I left boot camp, I realized I was pregnant. I love that baby boy. And I thank God for him. He's 16 years old today. And he has truly been a blessing to me. But having a baby still wasn't enough. I ended up marrying a man that was one of my childhood boyfriends. Because I held on to the fact that just maybe he loved me. The truth is, I was a broken young woman and he was a broken young man. And when two broken people come together and don't get the healing they need, it ends up in a broken marriage. And that's exactly what happened to me. I ended up in a broken marriage, full of pain, full of hurt. But through it all, I birthed a beautiful little girl. And that marriage ended in divorce. So I say today, I am a divorced woman. And it was during that time that me and my ex-husband separated, that I began to ask God, how did my life end up the way that it is? And as I got at his feet, he began to show me. The truth is, I was going to do one or two things when he left. I was either going to get at the feet of Jesus, or I was going to run into the arms of another man and end up back in an adulterous state. By that time, I was so desperate and I needed God so much that I decided I am tired of trying to figure out life on my own. I want to know you more. And it was during that separation that I had an encounter with God. And one day I was in church and the pastor began to say How our virginity was a gift that God had given us. How our virginity was a gift that was supposed to be unwrapped by one man and one man only. And I thought about all the times that I had given it away because I so desperately needed and wanted to be loved. And in that moment, I realized, man, God loves me. Now, before that, I was in church and I had a head knowledge of God loving me. And I even remember when I was a little girl, about 11 years old, I looked up to the sky and I said, God, I need somebody here on earth to love me. But I never felt like I received that, even being married. And so that day when I stood in church, I said, God, I finally found where I belong. I finally found where I belong. And I am loved because I am loved by you. You see, that day in church, I knew my worth. I had an encounter with the love of Jesus Christ, and it changed me forever. I was 34 years old when that took place. It took me 34 years to discover that I was loved. Now I know today that both my mother and my father loved me the best way they knew how. But I also know that my love language is quality time. And because they didn't spend time with me, I equated that to them not loving me. The truth is, my mother and my father have experienced some things in their life that has broken them, that has hurt them. And hurt people hurt people. So I no longer stand in judgment of my mother and my father. I love my father and my mother just where they are, because I'm their daughter and they gave birth to me. And in 2010, I received a prophecy. And the guy said, you have the gift of love. It is the one that hurt the most. It is the one that hurt the most. But God is going to use that in you to help unlock it in other people. And earlier this year, God said, tell my people that I love them. And I was like, God, how am I going to do that? And so God began to give me a vision onto the way to spread his love. Now, maybe around 2008, I began to understand why I did certain things. And I was introduced to a letter called the Father's Love Letter. And this right here is the letter that I was introduced to. And the Father's Love Letter so changed me. It told me how God felt about me. And that's the vision that God has given me, to use this one, the Father's Love Letter, in order to share it with the world. Because every one of us is seeking love. Everyone wants to be loved. And the truth is, we all go through different routes and different avenues in order to find that love. My route just happened to be through sexual sin. But I can stand here today and I thank God that I'm a saved woman, that I'm a delivered woman, that I'm a healed woman, and that I'm a celibate woman. I ain't having sex with nobody, y'all. My whole lifestyle of sin was sexual sin, because I so desperately wanted to be loved. But now I have buying power, y'all. I know I don't have to give my body away to feel loved. And I thank God for that, because he's a keeper to those that want to be kept. I am a living witness. Ain't no way I shouldn't be having sex. Because today we live in a world that is dominated with sex every time you turn around. Now, that is not to say that I don't get tempted. But I know where my help comes from. And I know where to run to when I have those moments when I want to do that. Because I'm still in the flesh. But I thank God I am determined to wait until I get married. Because I don't want anything that the enemy has to offer me. He's already done enough, y'all. He's already done enough. And I refuse to go backwards. I refuse to go backwards. I'm 2 years strong. And I thank God for that. And it is only by his grace that I can stand here in freedom tonight saying that I'm a free woman. Sexual sin no longer has a hold on my life. It tried to destroy me, but God is a healer. God is a deliverer. God is the one that sets free. And I've made up in my mind that I'm going to serve him, that I'm going to tell the world that he loves them, that you don't have to find love and all these other things. And I'm so excited about this journey. So, the Loving Me show. I learned to love me. What is this show going to be all about? First of all, you have to love God first, because God is love. If you don't love God first, you can never truly love yourself. I love me, y'all. Look at all this. I love me. And there was a time where I didn't, because I was so compared. But I know that God made me. He is the creator of me. He is the only one that has creator rights. No one else can compare themselves to me, because there's only one Jennifer. Ain't nobody on this earth got creator's rights, y'all. And I love me. I love all this natural hair. Got a little makeup to embellish, but I love me, y'all. And so I thank God for everything that he's doing. And I discovered that God gave me a voice. He gave me the ability to teach. And that is the gift that I am to share with the world. And so, loving me, loving God first, then yourself, then others. Because you can never truly love others until you learn to love yourself. We're supposed to give out of a place of overflow. And if you're not taking care of yourself, if you're not loving yourself, you will never truly be able to love the people that God has assigned you to. And I'm also in this show going to teach people how to love themselves on the 3 different levels that God created us. We are a spirit. You got to learn to love yourself spiritually. We are a soul. You got to learn to love yourself from the soulful place. And then physically, love the way God created your eyes. Love the lips that he gave you. Love the shape of your nose, because he gave it to you. So that's what this brand new show, the Loving Me show, will teach others. My desire is to see everyone on this earth know and experience the love of God that changes you forever. Once you encounter his love, you will be changed. It changed me, y'all, and I am forever grateful. There's no love like his love. And when we begin to love the way he loves, it is going to change our world and the world around us. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me on tonight. I am super excited about the journey that lies ahead. Join me each Thursday night at 9 o'clock for the Loving Me show. Thank you all so much for joining me on tonight. Be sure to share this with someone that you think will be encouraged by this message. Thank you all for joining. Bye-bye.